right, we are going to try this again. Ooh, it's going to be one of those days, you guys. Oh, maybe. I think we have it. All right. Welcome to the second try of doing our Facebook Live today. If you are joining me, go ahead and let me know that you're here. Welcome to those of you that are new to the Awakening Circle, part of the Aligned Human Project, which is my mission, my legacy in this world, is to help humanity align again within themselves. Let's realign the divine feminine, the divine masculine, which is going to be our topic next week. So if you're like, how do you do that? How do you align? How do you re-harmonize the divine feminine? That's the topic of next week that we're going to be hitting on to. And then the week after, we'll start talking about, as we're harmonizing the divine feminine, how does that actually work for us to start harmonizing the divine masculine or healing the divine masculine. So right now we have this split within ourselves. For a lot of people, they've suppressed their divine feminine. And so not only do we want to release that suppression, but often when the feminine comes out, it kind of comes out with a roar. And it's kind of like, I'm tired of being suppressed, so here I am. And so it comes like there's an aggression with it. When we're harmonizing the divine feminine, there's a lot of beauty in it. It's very intuitive. We come back into our feeling sense. There is compassion, but it's not a weakness. And so we start finding that strength within the softness, within the beauty again. And then as we bring that forward, understanding it's not gender specific. And so that's the big mistake that has been made over thousands of years, is that it's like we suppressed women. It became suppressing the feminine in everybody. And we all have feminine and masculine energy. Science, just science. And so the yin and the yang, and both of them are equally important. So how do we come back into balance again? And then as we balance that, I'm just going to double check our comments because we're getting another little lag there. As we balance those pieces, there we go. Let's see if that works. Can we then heal and reharmonize the divine masculine energy? And we can. It's just finding that within ourselves. So that's really what we're looking for. So again, if you're jumping on live or on the replay, whether that's here on our Facebook group, remember that I do take our Facebook lives within the group and I put them over to YouTube because Facebook only holds for 30 days now. So I take those recordings and I put them into YouTube. I have a playlist called The Awakening Circle, and that's where I put them. So if you're looking for something that we've gone over before and it's beyond the month, then they don't hold them. That's where they're going to be for you. So just so that you guys know, you can find them there. And so, yeah, just let me know that you're here and we can chat. Okay, so today, with all that said, so stay tuned. Next week, we're going to start talking about that divine feminine, the divine masculine. That's going to be coming up for December as we close our year. How do we start to work towards harmonization? A little bit of housekeeping for you guys. We have the alignment masterclass, which is free. It's a 2-hour masterclass this Sunday, which will be the 23rd. Today's the 20th, tomorrow's Friday, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. Yes, 23rd. There we go. On the 23rd, we have the Alignment Masterclass. That is the first time I'm going to have done this Alignment Masterclass. It's free. It's 2 hours. The other big thing that we have coming up, which I made a note in the description, is that the Align Your Life, so my book, Align Your Life, that'll be coming out in the spring, is there's a movement component to it, which is the Align Your Life group coaching. So it's we meet once a month. It is the first Sunday of every month. They're recorded. You get worksheets that go with them to kind of talk about the laws, and we work on one of the laws of co-creation of field and form. And then how do we make that tactile? How do we make it tangible? And so we talk about, like, what does that law look like in business? What does that law look like in our relationships? What does it look like in our personal life? What does it look like in our healing? And so I teach on the law itself for about 45 minutes, and then I open it up for Love Seek coaching. And that starts on December 7th. So the first Sunday of December will be the first one. And it will go, every month doing a different one of the laws. And you can open up to any questions that you might have. If you you are feeling like, I'm not sure if I feel comfortable going out and publicly asking this question, even within the group, then you can always email me the question and I can touch on that anonymously when I'm doing the teaching component. Hello, Bobby. Yay. Okay, perfect. We now know for sure that our comments and everything are working, which is lovely. And we can keep on going. So that's a little bit of housekeeping for you guys as we go forward. So we have the Align Your Life or Alignment Masterclass free this Sunday, and then Align Your Life begins on December 7th. And then we have a special, which I put in the group, and that goes through until Black Friday. And so we're doing the Align Your Life founders rate, and then I'm also adding in a alignment one-on-one session, coaching session that we can have, so we can kind of get that all down for you so that you're going in the right direction for yourself. So those are all the pieces coming down the pipe that I'm very, very, very excited about. So yay. Okay. Today we're going to talk about breaking loops, and so and how breaking loops and aligning our life. And so the big piece here is I'm always looking at the pain points. And so one of the pain points that came that was brought to me is the pain point of why it seems like things are always looping. We're repeating the same patterns. Like, why am I always dating the same person? Why is it that I leave my work and go to another job that looks really promising and it's the same shit, just in a different package? And so why does that happen? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, is these looping patterns and why they happen. And so the first thing I want to let you know is the big one, because often when we get a repeat in pattern, especially if we've been doing some work, so whether that is we've been doing, spiritual or personal development reading, we've been coaching, counseling, anything that you've been doing within your life, sometimes it can really feel like we can get really defeated because it seems like the same thing's happening over and over again. And it's like, shouldn't I be past this yet? So here's the piece. For one, a repeating pattern is not a failure, but it is feedback. And it's letting us know that there's still something that we need to work on. And we might be working on a level and then ignoring something that we don't actually want to touch. And so we have to understand the laws explain it all to us. They are, I put down here as we go further into this, energy is neutral. It's not punishing us. It's not, doing anything. It's neutral. It's just letting us create. And so what does that look like? So we're going to talk about why life hands us the same lessons over and over, and how to shift from reaction consciousness into participation. And so that's a big piece of the shift that we want to take a look at, is how these things look in different energy levels. And so why do we repeat the patterns? And so patterns repeat because our nervous system chooses familiarity over freedom. Okay, I'm going to go into this, and I'll go into the darkest, heaviest spot right off the top. When I was working with my coach, who's also a psychotherapist that I work with, Carol Look, you hear me talk about her quite a bit. Highly recommend her if you are looking to do some EFT or emotional freedom technique. She is my go-to person. I work with her regularly on releasing. So coaches and healers need coaches and healers. And so this is one of my people that I go to on a regular. Last October, I just had met her and we started working together, and she'd made a comment that, of course, you married your first husband. So if you heard my story, my first husband, sociopath, narcissistic behavior, extraordinary abuse, that physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse that was part of that situation. And she said, well, of course you married your first husband. You married your mother. And I was like, no, my mom, no. And she's like, yeah, Dawn, you did. You got really used to being in abuse in your life. And so you got used to hitting being a way of communicating that somebody was unhappy with you, that you weren't being good enough. You got used to certain behaviors, and then you married the same frequency of energy because it's what you knew. And so it's not like you go into a relationship with like, oh, I know abuse, so I want to be in abuse. You actually usually are trying to get what you don't have, which is, for me, I had a deep desire to be loved. And so looking for that love. And But what I was used to is having to perform for love. So if I was good enough, then I would get love, or I'd get attention, or positive attention. I always got attention one way or the other. So, this is what we start looking for. But it's not logical. Like, we're not thinking about it. And so understanding, when I go back 30 years and you can look back at it and you're like, oh, well, that's uncomfortable. And so then we start to recognize of like, oh, I'm used to having conditional love. So why would I think that I could get into a relationship that has unconditional love? It's too big of a jump. Nervous system's not going to be okay. And so we have to understand that often we're always doing what feels comfortable, even if it's unhealthy. And so if we're used to being in dysfunctional relationships, dysfunctional friendships, dysfunctional workforce places, then those things will continue to loop until we recognize it. And then we start making the shifts within ourselves to start moving outside of that. So the first thing that we have to understand is that life's patterns repeat because the nervous system, the mind is going to what it knows because it's predictable, and predictability is safe. Remember, the big four are safety, security, belonging, and love. And so if this is something I know, then that's a safe environment. Not because it's actually healthy and giving me belonging and love, but I understand it and I know how to navigate these waters. Whereas getting into a healthy relationship where I'm treated with love and respect and they are mentally and emotionally healthy, I don't know what that looks like. And so that's uncomfortable because I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and they're just being. And so that's the first thing that we have to understand. The second part is that our energy broadcasts the same signal until you consciously change your participation. And so awareness is always the key. So you always hear me say, okay, my big three, the format I use for my work for Aligned Human is pause. So we pause, we take a conscious breath, and even in lifetime, in moments, if I'm coaching people, I coach with this. I'm like, we want to take the pause. And as we take that big breath, we're being given space, even when we're in a conversation. As soon as somebody takes a big breath and kind of looks like they're thinking, everybody waits because they're like, oh, something's coming. And so we take a breath, we pause. The second component is feel. And so do I feel contracted? Do I feel expanded? Is this true for me? Is this not true for me? So we check in with our body and our nervous system to see where we're sitting at. And then we align. And so the third component is to align with our soul or spirit. The easiest way to do that is to check in with your values. And so I would say, and if you want the values worksheet, message me. I will happily send you the values worksheet, totally free, and it'll get emailed to you. It is great. It helps us really start to recognize ourselves, understanding that your values do evolve as you evolve. So where my 3 core values originally, about, 10, 12 years ago, were courage, freedom, and loyalty. I still have courage. That's it. So I have courage and curiosity. I didn't realize curiosity was such a powerful value for me. If I stay in alignment with curiosity, it ends a lot of my suffering. So courage, curiosity, instead of freedom, I have sovereignty. So to be self-governing, as opposed to this concept of panicking because I feel trapped in a situation. And then I have my intuition, which I ignored for decades. and realize that is I need to always be checking with myself. My intuition is on point all the time, and I need to not doubt it, and I need to trust it. And so that's a major player, usually for most of us, but for me, it's a non-negotiable. And when somebody minimizes my intuition, I know that person's not in resonance with me. They're not my people. And that's okay. They might be my person later on, but they're not my person right now. And they're just telling me what's inside themselves. It's nothing personal for me to deal with. That's their shit, honestly. So, we want to check in with the values. So we pause, we feel, and then we align. And that's what gets us taking these moments where we can check back in. And so then when we look at it, we go consciously change your participation, which means instead of reacting, I'm going to take that breath and I'm going to respond instead. I'm going to take the moments to look at it and go, I've been here before. This person might be new, but they feel familiar. And if I check in with myself, that familiarity doesn't actually mean that it's healthy. Like, is this a healthy relationship? All of the times we don't want to ask those questions because we're worried about the answers. And so then we check in with that, and then from there, we can step away from that relationship. Okay, and so, or we step back into it. So it might be that does align, and I want to consciously participate in another way. And so instead of perpetuating the cycle, I'm going to start changing how I'm responding and see how things unfold in the relationship. We have to remember that we're always the epicenter of everything. And so conscious creation is always creating. And so your awareness is the key to making shifts. And you're your only project. Nobody else is your project. You don't need people to change. You need to focus on yourself and do your own work and allow people to do their own work. And within that allowance, we just start seeing life unfold in a different way. And so we're always creating from what's within us. So that'll take us into the next piece here. So the field is always neutral. So it's always mirroring your frequency, not your intentions. And so I can have a great intention to, be forgiving and loving, but if I'm walking around judging the shit out of people inside, then that's not going to work. And so I'm going to get a mirror from the universe. And so because its field always precedes form, so the judgment I have inside of me is going to be mirrored outside of me, which means I'm going to probably come across people who are very judgmental. I'm going to come across people who've been really hurt by people's judgments. I will see what is within me being mimicked outside of me, and I'm creating that. So once I start shifting from that behavior, I'll start noticing that judgment starts falling away in my life. I have lived this. I promise you it is absolutely true. When you shift your internal state, the external world recognizes. And so it can happen really, really fast. And you're not failing, you're being invited into awareness. And so note that when we have a loop and have a pattern, that's like a ding, ding, ding. Are you paying attention yet? So for me, it was like the ding, ding, ding. You need to deal with this shit with your mother. I was really lucky. I was given at least those 4 months to start really actively working on healing those childhood wounds and the wounds that went right through my adulthood. So that when it came time for her passing, I was able to let her go with an open heart, an incredible amount of compassion and empathy, and unconditional love for her. And so these looping patterns are there to show us where we have the wound, and so that we can let the wound come to the surface and lance it off. And so that doesn't mean scorched earth. It means like release it and let it go, because that's what the healing journey is. The healing journey is a journey of letting go. And often we get stuck having decade-long healing journeys. And really what we're saying is, I have this wound and I haven't let go yet. But I'm aware of it, but I haven't done my work yet. And at the end of the day, 6th law is radical self-responsibility. And so it's our job to let these things go. Not because somebody asked for our forgiveness, not because somebody said I'm sorry, but because you're tired of the wound being inside of you and affecting the whole rest of your life. And you're the only person that can change that. So then as we go through, so the law that applies really heavily to this today, well, the one that I'm going to talk about a lot is law 4, which is choice is participation. And so we go into this concept of radical responsibility. Choices are not actions, they're really energetic activations. And so when we think about that, it's like we often think like, oh, I'm making this choice, and we think like an action, but it's what it really is the moment we make the choice, we energetically shift. So where I saw this in lifetime, so I'll go back into the looping pattern. So all of my relationships, although they were less abusive than my first marriage, they still had dysfunctional components to them all the way through. Now, I had a realization this week that had I gotten into a relationship with Mike, my husband, and we had both been awesome, or if I had been where I was at and he was already done his healing work and all the rest, the relationship wouldn't have worked, which is interesting. But one of the reasons I believe that the relationship between Mike and I worked is because Mike and I came together very shortly after he was separated from his ex-wife. And so in that separation, usually they say it takes about a month for every year you're married to heal from a relationship. And so we, within a month, maybe 6 weeks, we ended up connecting. And then for about 6 weeks, it was really great. And then it was like off and on, off and on. We only ever really dated for the first 2 years. And it was like not, like, it really wasn't healthy. But I was in this place where I just knew that he was my person. And so I just kept tolerating, even while, and really all I was doing was tolerating him going through his healing journey. And he needed to go through that. Meanwhile, I had my own work to do. And one of the pieces I need to get to was a choice that had to be made. And I don't know why it's like so pivotal, probably because it happened on my son's birthday, but I hit this moment. Mike was away and we were on and off again. And I was sitting with my aunt and I woke up that morning. I said, I'm done. I'm freaking done. I deserve to be treated better than this. Whatever his answer is, he lives with when he gets home. I'm not playing these games anymore. And I kid you not, that was about 8 a.m. My aunt was like, are you serious? She knew that I absolutely was in love with Mike. And I said, I am. And that afternoon, it was early afternoon, I got the phone call from him saying, I know I've really screwed up and I'm hoping it's not too late. I realize I'm in love with you. And 5 days later, he came home and we spent the next couple of years working through all those things where we had to do a lot of healing work together still. But this realization of how these looping patterns work. And I mean, I look back, like we've been together now, I mean, in total 17 years. And I look back and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I only just noticed it this week. I was like, I bet you that's why it worked for us, is because he wasn't already done like all of his stuff, because that wouldn't have been a frequency that matched with me at that time. I'd done enough of my work, but I still had lots more to go. And I mean, I continue to do my work every day to this very moment. So note that in these shifts. So choice. So the moment I made the choice, my energy shifted. And so choices are really energy activations. Last summer, I did the same thing where I was like, enough. I'm not going to keep playing small. I didn't want to, come out here as, really what we would call an alignment coach or a spiritual coach. And I was really scared and I didn't. And I was having all these physical issues. And as soon as I made that choice and I had an energy shift, literally overnight, my pelvis stopped having the issues that it was having. I haven't had, I go to the pain clinic now it's down to 16 weeks. Used to be every 10. And that was the first time I didn't have to have nerve ablations put in my pelvis and my SI joints. And I haven't had one done since. And so these are the things that can shift for us when we make choice, when we make a real big energy activation. Awareness alone interrupts the automatic loop. And so as soon as we have that awareness, like, whoa, what am I doing here? I'm not doing this. And so then we just stop and we pause and we start to witness it. That is a major, major play that we can make. And so that's why so often I give clients, like brain dump. Become really aware of the thoughts that you have running through your head all the time. Because often people will journal, but we journal about, oh, this happened in my day today and this is going on and this happened. But we don't actually journal about our thoughts. And so once we start dumping out like, oh, I woke up feeling really anxious today and I'm really irritated with so-and-so at work because they did this. And if we actually go into it and we don't censor ourselves, we'll start to find where the misalignments are within ourselves. And so then we start noticing like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I wonder if it's this, or should I be shifting the way I'm seeing this? And we start noticing like maybe where we're judging, and all of a sudden now maybe we can give, hello, Paula. Maybe now I can give a little bit more curiosity, a little bit more patience or compassion somewhere. So those are the things that become available to us as we're doing this work. And then participation is how you step out of fate and into creation. So always think of fate and destiny. Fate is like fatalistic. You are trying to control, or you're like micro-controlling the world around you. And when we are trying to control the world around us, we're not allowing it to unfold. We're not allowing ourselves to participate in the miracles that are naturally there for us. And so when we start releasing that control and we start witnessing and we start co-creating, we're not just listening to our mind. Our mind's going to, remember, the mind is looping on what it already knows. That's where it feels safe. Life is meant to be created, and new experiences and new wonders and new joys come into play. And so we don't expect the same things to happen over and over again. And so we start to just stay present. The mind might freak out. This isn't good. They're going to say no, all this stuff. The mind can freak out all it wants, and we just sit there staying present. Just keep witnessing. Just keep witnessing. You get offered to go do something and you just go do it. That feels right. Mind freaks out. No, nobody's going to like us, whatever. And we just keep going and we just keep leaning into it and we allow things to unfold. And then what happens is slowly but surely, the mind will integrate these new experiences and it will start to shift what it is looping into. And so we can change the patterns by consciously participating in our life, not just looping with the mind, which is just your neurotic inner roommate. Okay, so, I said every time you choose differently, even slightly, you change the whole timeline. So that's what we're talking about here. And then I'm going to give you guys a quick little reclamation process. So I do have this in, this was also in my YouTube the other day as well, but you'll be able to go back into this one. So this one, I always like a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly. The reason why I like doing that is it just brings us back to our body. And so when we were talking at the very beginning about the divine feminine energy, when we connect back into our body, so many of us, myself included, we really especially as our bodies are changing and we're getting older, we start to really not love on our bodies. We probably weren't great at it as teens either. We didn't realize how good we had it, but now it's really hard for us. So the more that we can touch and come back to ourselves, the more that we're giving ourselves, those feeling receptors are being fed. And so that's why I like a hand on the heart and a hand on the belly, is giving some somatic connection to ourselves. And then we want to take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Nice slow breath out through the mouth with a gentle sigh. And you might want to do that a couple more times, just starting to come into your center. And then I want you to bring to mind a pattern that you've been noticing has been on repeat. So what's one thing where you are noticing something keeps showing up in your life? And it's okay if it goes blank right now. Often that'll happen. So that little fight and flight, the freeze response, just let it sit there and simmer and trust that it's going to come up. If not right this moment, it's going to come up over the next couple of hours. And then the next question, once it comes, is going to be, where do I keep choosing from the familiar instead of the aligned? And so remember, this is all about coming back into alignment with ourselves. And so where do I keep choosing from the familiar versus what is aligned with who I want to be, with who I choose to be? And then the next ask is, what is the new choice my soul is asking me to make? What is the choice my soul is asking me to make? So just taking that moment of checking in with yourself. And it might be uncomfortable. And that is okay. I promise you, you can do hard things. We can lean into the discomfort of this. You are not alone. That's one of the reasons we created this community. And then the affirmation to sit with this is, I see the loop. I choose differently now. I see the loop. I choose differently now. So kind of what I said to you guys in the very beginning, recognizing the pattern, and all of a sudden I'm like, enough. I deserve better than this. I deserve somebody that's going to be proud to hold my hand when he walks down the street. I deserve somebody that is proud to call me his girlfriend, his woman, whatever. I deserve that. And so there's this moment where we have to say, enough. Enough of playing small, enough of taking scraps, enough. I deserve better than this. And the first place I deserve it from is myself. So remember, often we give ourselves scraps, which is why we have the habit of accepting scraps from other people. Something to consider. All right. I am excited for you guys. Love your feedback. Always, always, always. If there is something you want us to chat about, if there's a topic you want us to talk on, next week we are going to be talking on the divine feminine. I am very excited about this topic. I had a lot of questions about it. I've spent the last 5 years trying to heal my divine feminine energy. Wearing dresses every day pretty much for a year was my first step to try and just get there, because I was so used to like, pants, things that just made me feel powerful and strong. So really getting into my femininity, into my softness. And then the other big thing to remind you guys of was that housekeeping at the beginning. So we have the alignment masterclass that starts on Sunday. It is 2 hours from 9 until 11 Pacific time. It is free. You can sign up. I will throw the link in here again for you guys. And then the other thing that is going through is a special, which is Black Friday special. So it'll go all the way through. And that is the new Align Your Life group coaching that goes for a year. So you sign up for a year. You can do it in one payment. You can do it in multiple payments. So you have those options. It is $9.97 for the year. And if you sign up before the end of midnight of Black Friday, the 28th, then you will also get a alignment laser focus session. So how can we get those first steps to coming back into alignment, and not only alignment with yourself, but alignment with the universe. So alignment with these laws, alignment with how this energy really works. Remember, at the end of the day, you are source. You are God in form. You're beautiful and you are perfection. And the only thing we need to do is uncover all the things that we're holding on to. We need to let them go so we can uncover that brilliance and let our natural light shine. I love you all. I hope you have a magnificent day, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Brightest blessings.